Well, I don't have much money, and I don't have much time, and I don't have many friends I could call mine. And I've been deceived, yeah, but haven't we all? I've seen the sun rise, and I've seen the sun fall. Well, I don't know why, and I don't know where, and I don't even know how, and I no longer care. But I've seen your face, and I've heard your call. Yes, I've seen the sun rise, and I've seen the sun fall. Let it go. Well, I've seen the sun hang like a flame in the sky. Yes, I've seen the sun turn, and I've seen the sun die. And I often think now, before our time is run, will there be any thoughts for what we have done? Well, I don't have much money, and I don't have much time, and I don't have many friends I could call mine.
Hello and welcome to another SDA Q&A. An SDA Q&A. Oh dear. Here I am coming to you live again on the road. I'm actually at the festival now, and so I guess technically not on the road. And I'm in the car park underneath the building where the festival is happening right now. And as I mentioned yesterday, when I pulled over on the side of the road, I just wanted to keep these going, even though I am away. I think it's important for us to keep in touch. Officially today is our weekly gospel message. And, you know, I'm not a good gospel speaker. There could be debate about my skills in and even running interviews, but I enjoy it. I love the topics. I love the conversation. I love bringing people in to have the dialogue. And so, yeah, I thought it was important to keep on going. And so welcome everybody that is watching today. And just let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay. That would be great as well. I think we are also live in at our Facebook page, our Facebook group, and YouTube as well today. So maybe you could let me know if you can see me in those 3 locations. So yesterday's topic, before I get on to today's topic, is Adventist Jesus the same as Bible Jesus? And boy, there's been some fantastic comments and conversations opening up on that. It's a topic I want to dig in more deeply. So maybe keep that conversation going there for me, because it really helps me to, learn more about it. Some people thought that I was saying that Jesus was an Adventist. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that people sometimes put onto Jesus activities that he may or may not be doing, and Adventists may be a bit guilty of laying claim to that, claiming that Jesus is actually doing some things that he isn't doing. So I thought I'd read a couple of the comments from yesterday that came onto the Facebook group. There were some great ones over there on YouTube as well, but I can't resurrect them right now. Excuse the pun. So Stephen Beagles wrote he absolutely is the same. And I wrote back, he is the same, but others lay a variety of claims upon what it is that he is actually doing. Let's see what else. There were some really good comments. Charlie Perth wrote, Jesus is completely different to most Adventists' conception of who he is. Jesus is bigger, wider, deeper, more generous than we can begin to imagine how he is. He is everything we could possibly imagine and more. Jesus is wonderful and more. He is glorious and more. Incredible, mind-blowing, stupendous, awesome, astounding, majestic, and more. There is more love, more grace, more and more abundance, overwhelming abundance. That's just the very beginning of all that Jesus is. A lot of people liked your comment there, Charles. And Maestro Aki wrote, yes, there's only one Jesus Christ. And I guess the point of my conversation was there's one Jesus Christ, and this segues into today's conversation, actually, but that Christ is often filtered through people's own lens of what they want to see him as doing. And Adventists have a very unique claim to say what he is doing that I'm questioning. Kay Judge wrote, Jesus isn't an Adventist. He is the Holy Son of God, our Creator, Savior, and Redeemer. The question is problematic, as in the question I raised, and may manipulate the thinking of people to be drawn into an issue that doesn't need to be made and may cause division. Christ came in order that his followers would become one as he and his Father are one. Unity through Christ is a central unifying principle in all Christian faith traditions. Very ironic, Kay. I'm wondering if you watched the whole program. Yes, I agree with you. But my whole point is that if Adventists claim Jesus is doing something, for example, the investigative judgment, sanctuary, October 22, new phase of ministry, 1844, if he's not actually doing that, that very claim is inaccurate, and that is what causes the followers to be, what's the word for it? Not unified. Christ came, you mentioned Christ came in order that his followers would become one as he and his Father are one. So then why do Adventists lay claim to something other than what he is doing in heaven, is what the Bible says? 1844, October 22 is not found anywhere. And the dates that lead up to that have proven to be inaccurate. So if unity through Christ is central, as you say, then people shouldn't be laying claims to false practices. People shouldn't be laying claims and placing them as authorized via Ellen, via God, that are events that happened and actions that are taking place, if they aren't. That's what causes the disunity. So by my asking in the title, which I think everybody understood, is Adventist Jesus the same as Bible Jesus? I think everyone got what I was saying. It's not, is Jesus a Seventh-day Adventist? The question is saying, have Adventists misrepresented what Jesus is doing in heaven, October 22, 1844? And I replied asking you to say, what do you think happened October 22, 1844? Do you think Jesus began a special new phase, unique ministry? I can't wait for your answer on that one. And Simon Fonov, this is the last one I'll read from yesterday, raised a good point. I think I'd mentioned in the interview, in the commentary, that Jesus is carrying out a ministry that in fact he isn't. And by pushing that and teaching that Adventists officially do, Kay and others may not, Stephen Beagles, other gospel Adventists may not. In fact, in my season 2, I would say most of the academics and scholars said that Jesus wasn't carrying out a special ministry October 22, 1844. But the official stance is that he is. So the church, by making that claim, that the Levitical Jesus carrying out a new phase October 22, 1844, if that didn't happen, that's what's misleading. That's what's divisive. That's what tears down unity. That's what destroys a true understanding of Christ as the oneness that you were talking about. So I agree with your conclusion. I just don't agree with your premise that Adventist Jesus is carrying out that Adventist message that he is, that they're saying he is. So back to Simon Fonov's comment. He says, and to make matters worse, after he carries out this fictional investigative judgment, he takes off his priestly robes and puts on garments of vengeance, as E.G. White puts it in The Great Controversy. So gentle Jesus, meek and mild, becomes Jesus the destroyer. Ghastly concepts. And that, as I said, segues fantastically into my topic for today. And I'm going to write a book. I've had this book title for a long time, and who knows if it will ever see the light of day. But the title will be Rescuing Jesus, and the subtitle is From the Adjudications of Moses, the Teachings of Paul, and the Visions of Ellen. And Connie French raised a great point. She said, maybe add so that he can rescue us. So I have put that at the end. Rescuing Jesus from the Adjudications of Moses, the Teachings of Paul, and the Visions of Ellen. So I've touched on this theme before, and I won't bang on about it too much today, but I thought it would be a good conversation again. I'd love your thoughts on this and your comments, and I will come to them in a minute. I can see them today. I've set things up so that I can see the comments better. I've set it up so we're live, I think, on our Facebook group, and I'll just double check that. Yes, we are live over there in Facebook land as well. So, yeah, what do I mean by rescuing Jesus? And how has it applied to my life personally? These are my personal thoughts. I could well be wrong. I'm not making a claim of, any kind of, thought that this is how it is. It's just really how it has helped me when I left the Adventist church and truly lost a lot of my sense of identity. That is how wrapped up in Adventism I was, and how Adventism actually almost raises its members. I was born into the church. I was a fifth generation Seventh-day Adventist. And so when I left, it was quite a difficult process. The actual process of leaving wasn't difficult. I wrote on Facebook, this is my last Sabbath as a Seventh-day Adventist, and that was 8.5 years ago. I then, at some point soon after, I wrote to my local church and just simply said, hey, for personal reasons, I'd like you to take my name off the roll. And I've thought about it a lot, so please don't come back to me with any discussions of have I truly made my mind up. Just at your next board meeting, take my name off. And of course they did. And so the process was simple, but I didn't expect that soon after, yes, I got lots of support, lots of flack, lots of good things, lots of not so good things. I found out who my true friends were and are, but I began to have this sort of feeling of, whoa, who am I? I didn't realize my identity had been so wrapped up in the Adventist church. And for a lot of people watching, a lot of people that are fringe Adventists or are leaving the church or who have left the church, a lot of you will feel this if you do in fact leave, if you do take that step away from just being fringe. And so what I'm offering today, I guess, is advice on what helped me get through that. I can see Bread Math has written, I disagree with your topic, Peter, even as a former SDA. How can you disagree? I haven't even said what my topic, I haven't even unpacked my topic yet. He adds, the challenge for us former SDAs is that we may be tempted to veer too far to the other side. Be careful, bro, Peter. Well, I'm so glad you've said that, because that is what I'm talking about. That potential to veer to the extremes. So hopefully there, Bread Math, hopefully you can watch a little bit longer, and you might be able to make a better judgment on what my topic is, having heard my synopsis. So I'm talking about that exact thing. So thank you for raising that. The challenge for those who leave the Adventist church is to veer too far. He's suggesting one way. I'm suggesting you can veer both ways. Some people can go incredibly into the feeling side, where they only respond to how they feel about a supernatural, spiritual Jesus connection. And others, as Dale Ratzlaff talked about, can go right into the realms of non-belief altogether. So this topic today, what I'm sharing today, is what ensured that I wouldn't veer. So thank you for your remark there. Be careful, brother. Thank you for that. I am careful, and I'm so glad that I came across this notion of how to rescue Jesus from the adjudications of Moses, the teachings of Paul, the visions of Ellen White. And so what I did, and I've said this many times before, but I thought, I'd lay it out in one place today. For me, I did start taking that path of, wow, maybe it's all just nothing. And I discovered, as I cascaded through all of these feelings of who am I grasped onto the four Gospels. I don't want people to think I'm saying that where I landed on this means that Moses, Paul, Ellen are not a part of the picture or your picture. I'm not saying that. Stay with me on this. I'm saying that for me, I grasped something that I could hold on to that was familiar, that kept me grounded, and that I found lots of people could agree with and find common ground on. And that is the teachings of Jesus from the 4 Gospels. So for me, and I encourage anyone going through the cascade, the falling down, the going over too much into feelings of supernatural, oh, I felt this and this must be it, and everything is just guided by how you feel supernatural Jesus is speaking to you. And all those who are feeling that they're going the other way and they're going into, I just want to throw everything in. I'm just suggesting this as a really great grounding, pause, refresh, reboot. It's a great way to do that. So what I did, and those who know me know, I even set up a Facebook group, Voice Life Fellowship, where presenters were only allowed to present from the 4 Gospels. Again, not that that's where they must stay, but it is ground zero for common ground. Ground zero for common ground. So yes, I did put aside miracles, supernatural. And I might get pushback for this, but this is who I am. This is what I did. This is what rescued me. And this is what lay the foundation for everything that has grown from that. My understanding now of the law and Moses, my appreciation for Paul and his theology, my realization for me personally that Ellen didn't get visions from God, but that she was an interesting person that did some inspiring things. I'm not going to criticize that. She did. But for me, I had to just cling to what are the teachings of Jesus as presented in the 4 Gospels. And yes, I got a lot of pushback for saying that here, even in our group and at Voice Life Fellowship, because I think I wasn't good enough at conveying what I needed and what I meant. I needed to land in a place that was super practical. And I found that the teachings of Jesus presented in the 4 Gospels gave me an incredible sense of peace and an anchoring. They were solid. And I was able to chat with my agnostic friends and my super spiritual friends that believe every move and step they take is God-driven and guided, because we all agreed that the teachings of Jesus in the 4 Gospels are fantastic. They are the foundation for many of us that live in the West. And they are something that held me fast. And to Brad, that mentioned earlier, be careful, brother. Don't go veering off. That's my whole point. This helped me not to veer off. This grounded me, saved me. And I want to rescue Jesus from people's misconceptions of who they potentially think he is. Now that seems to think, oh, well, I know who Jesus is. No, I'm just saying that the stripped back version, the teachings of Jesus in the four Gospels, if once you land on that, it's so solid and practical and makes sense. The rescuing isn't therefore me now saying to everyone else, so therefore this is how Moses talks about the law. Therefore, this is how you need to understand Paul. Therefore, this is how you need to understand Ellen. I'm not making those claims. I'm simply saying that I'm rescuing Jesus from the milieu, the noise out there, so that if you too have been confused by the Adventist version, by often a lot of the Pauline message, by not quite understanding the law, if you're in that category, all I'm saying is that go back to the four Gospels, read it, look at the teachings of Jesus, and you will be rescuing Jesus, as Connie French added, so that he can rescue you. And this is the important bit. So that you then use your brain and go off and draw your own conclusions about Paul, Moses, Ellen, all of that stuff. So I hope that makes sense. There are many ways we all can misrepresent Jesus, misrepresent the law, misrepresent the teachings of Paul, Ellen White. All of us can fall into that trap of fighting over what we think it is as compared to what other people think it is. And it's very easy for us to then descend into all sorts of battles. And as Kay Judge mentioned earlier, it's about Jesus should be unifying. And I guess what I'm saying is that if I'm confused about something to do with the law, if I'm confused about something to do with Paul, I go back to that core simple, what was Jesus talking about? What were Jesus' teachings? I strip away everything, I ground myself again, I reboot, I refresh, and then I look at it all through that lens. I then go into the lens. Moses, the law, Paul. If there's something that Paul is saying I can't work out and don't agree with, I go back to what was Jesus saying, and I look through that lens. And that just helps me know who I am, ground myself, and then begin learning about the other stuff. I'm learning, really, I'm learning. I'm not making the big claim. I'm just saying that stripping back to the basics offers you and affords you the opportunity to think more clearly about where you're going to go next, where you will then proceed with thoughts on miracles, supernatural happenings, Paul's Damascus Road, the teachings that he has in all the different churches, the letters, Revelation, Daniel, Genesis. When you see it through the lens of the stripped back teachings of Jesus from the four Gospels, it provides you with a springboard to then go into all the other stuff. And wow, I have learned so much from you guys as I've listened and interviews and watched people run the gospel programs. I've learned so much, and I'm continuing to learn all the time. My advice today in how I feel that I've rescued Jesus from these adjudications and from the sometimes difficult to understand theological stances of Paul, and for, in my opinion, having looked at this deeply, the false claims of Adventism and Ellen White, I've been able, as I've learned so much from you guys, I've been able to just go, well, what can I do to strip away all those other lenses and strip away my sense of confusion? And so if I'm unsure about, I remember listening to Mike Colburn's talk about the state of the dead and soul sleep and all, and I loved it. But a lot of the time I was like, whoa, this is going to take me ages to fully grasp. And so I go back to my default, my reboot, my refresh, and then I go back into the fray, into the let's learn about this stuff. And look, I think particularly with what's going on in the world at the moment, right at this festival, right now, there is going to be some fireworks happening because I won't go into it. But politically speaking, there's some people on one side and some people on the other side to do with the Holy Land. And I'm concerned that they're going to clash in this festival that's supposed to be about peace, love, and music. And I think, wow, even though that we are currently having massive polarized views, and don't not speak about them. I'm not saying, yay, warm, fuzzy, hug each other. I'm going, yeah, speak about it, vent, show your anger, be robust. On the show, I present people from one side and people from the other side. And I love that you guys agree or disagree and you speak your mind. That's awesome. That demonstrates that this experiment of SDAQ&A is working. Go for it. I love that. But I'm just saying, how cool is it? How great, how fantastic that we can actually go to a source, simple to understand, stable position of agreeing that, hey, those teachings, love your neighbor as yourself, golden rule, are something we can all agree with. We can all agree with those things. And therefore, we can reboot in relationship with each other. We can go, man, what you said last week really annoyed me. But hey, let's break bread together because we know that we want to do to other people what we'd like done to us. Because we know that we've got to love our neighbor. We love our enemy. What does that mean? So, yeah, they're my thoughts. And I'll just quickly read some questions, comments. As I said, today will be a short one. I need to get back up into the fray up there. I mentioned on my trip yesterday that I am one business that I have that keeps me being able to do what I do here is an audio-visual business, and I've been running it for 33 years. And yeah, I'm getting a bit too long in the tooth for it. But I travel 6 weeks of the year to these festivals, and I supply audio-visual equipment to these festivals. I've been contracted to them for over 30 years. But this is my passion, sharing with you guys, growing with this community, learning so much myself from everyone in this group. So if you want to support what I'm doing, I've just put, where is it? Can't see. There we go, down here. There's my PayPal. You can find me there if you'd like to make a couple of dollars donation. That would be fantastic. And really appreciate that support. And I'm even, if there's anyone in Australia, I'm selling this business, audio-visual business of 30 years, a great business. But I'm ready to be home more. So let's have a quick look at some of these comments. And there's some really good ones. Wow, I didn't realize there'd be so many. I'll just have to do a sample of them. Jimmy James, Joel James, how you going? Has said, SDA, the staunch Adventists truly have another Jesus. Just got to be real. If you're all about E.G. White, you tend to defend her the way we defend Jesus. And Connie says, put me down for a copy of your book, Rescuing Jesus from the Adjudications of Moses, the Teachings of Paul, and the Visions of Ellen. Hopefully it'll come out one day. I might just transcribe this conversation and make it a book. Brian Patterson has put, when you're born of God, you can veer all over the place. While a child of the light, you may land in some dark places, but that has nothing to do with your position. Your condition is not your position. Your state is not your standing. When Christ has reconciled you, you are reconciled, and none can snatch you out of Christ's hands. Thanks for that. And yeah, I appreciate that. I landed myself in a safe place, a safe position, so that I could work on the condition of me. And that's just me personally. And I feel very lucky to have a core sense of knowing that has helped me not veer into darkness. And for me, personally, as I said, teachings of Jesus, 4 Gospels, boom, it paused me. It helped me focus on some of the things that I knew myself and many other friends who had many other views could actually come together on, break bread together. I literally spend a lot of my time in another business that I run. It's literally 30 seconds from 6, 7 cafes, restaurants, a view of the beautiful lake, just literally 30 seconds from my venue that I rent out to people to run various programs. And I often meet people every week, actually, in one of the cafes there. And though we have hugely different views, hugely different, we gather together and break bread together on the common ground. So Alyssa Milne writes, the modern phenomenon of humans saving Jesus. And hopefully you've been watching and realized I'm not trying to rescue Jesus. I'm simply saying that people can veer off into many different places. And it's a catchy little title. Gets the conversation going. Who am I to lay any claim to rescue anybody? So hopefully you've watched a little bit and understand what I'm saying deeply and truly in this conversation is that, you know, for me, I've just found that I lost my identity in leaving Adventism, and I needed to find something that held me fast. And for me, as again, I'm just saying, this may only click with one person watching, and the rest of you might want to mock me and say, hey, that's ridiculous, and you must never really truly understood the Lord, or, oh, you know, you can't save anyone. Who do you think you are? Fine. I don't care. Go for it. And look, Frank says a really good point here, that probably the Gospels were written in reaction to Paul in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, wow. And Frank has blown my mind on many things. So thank you for that, Frank. And again, this is why we have these conversations, so that Alyssa can say, what are you talking about? You can't rescue Jesus. What a classic phenomenon that all you guys are trying to do. I'm really just sharing my heart, my journey, flaws, falls, stumbles, misunderstandings of my own, and hoping that by talking about it and talking to you guys about it, we find some kind of move forward, onward, upward, something positive comes out of it. Another good point from Frank, the lens of the Jesus of the Gospels is actually the lens through the 4 evangelists who wrote later than Paul. See, they're brilliant, great things. Stephen Beagles writes, how do you account for the miracles of Christ? So that's a whole other conversation, and that's a really interesting and wonderful explorative conversation that we could have. But as I'm saying, for my default, to rescue the Jesus that I kind of wanted to understand and hang on to, that I wanted to, that I needed to, for my own mental health, which fortunately I've been blessed with a pretty strong sense of who I am. So even with that, I was leaving Adventism shook my identity. So yeah, in this case, I don't have to look at those miracles. I look at them as when I'm rebooting, when I'm refreshing, I look at the analogies that can be drawn from the miracles. So for example, the feeding of the 5,000. I can go, well, what if Christ was using this as an analogy, a metaphor? And what if he noticed there was a young boy with some fish and loaves of bread, and over there was someone else with a couple of fish and a cake? And he said, look, you might have more than you need right now. Why don't you kind of share it with the people around you? That is going to get me in trouble saying that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not discounting the miracle. I'm just saying, for me, when I needed to reboot, but still hang on, I had to look at the Jesus, whichever way he came to us, through the lens of Paul, through whoever, those teachings, the things that have defined the core of Christianity, the love your neighbor. What does it mean to give food to people if you've got more? Why not share that with those around you? I needed to do that before I could springboard Stephen Beagles into those other fabulous areas of the constellation of supernatural events. That's for a whole other conversation. I loved the notion of as Peter went out onto the water and he began to sink, it was because he was taking his eyes off Jesus. What's the metaphor there? When we take our eyes off this good news that Jesus was offering, we sink. I'm not saying that's where I am now. I'm saying that as I was leaving, finding my identity, I found 4 Gospels, teachings of Jesus. And wow, even what Frank just said earlier has blown my mind. I'm going to have to rethink this all again. But for those who just need to have that common ground, perhaps we simple folk, I just found it a huge, huge benefit. And just back to Frank again, he's been talking about Paul, the letters, mind-blowing. I love it. Thank you, Frank. I'm looking forward to your next presentation. Stephen Beagles writes, Jesus taught judgment. Yeah, of course. I'm not saying he didn't. I take away from his teachings how that judgment applied, how he cleared the temple, how he got angry. I love that Jesus. Sorry, I'm wiping I'm not crying. I just got something in my eye. So yeah. And Frank adds the miracles, especially in John, were signs that the kingdom of God had arrived through his chosen king. And agreed. And that to me is the building on, the springboarding into the next step. But the finding of the common ground, if you're talking to an agnostic, the finding of the common ground, if you're talking to a new age person, the common ground is what has culturally come down to us as the teachings of Jesus as found in the four Gospels. Whether that's an accurate assessment of how they came into being, that's how we in the West have perceived Jesus, his teachings. And I guess I'm saying try to strip away all the other stuff so that when I'm conversing with a new ager or someone in a pub or, an atheist or an Adventist, I can at least go, oh, can we get some rest from the storm? Can we get some rest from the storm and agree that the teachings of love your enemy, love your neighbor, the golden rule are powerful core ingredients to stability. And yes, this is not discounting all the other stuff. I'm not sure why I can't explain that so clearly to people. People often go, oh, so what you're saying is that you don't believe that then? No, I'm not saying that. Maybe someone can help me explain that better because it's a common misconception of what I'm saying. So I'm just going to read some now from YouTube. Dale has said, could you please repeat the topic? Yeah, I've tongue-in-cheek, I guess, in many ways, called it rescuing Jesus from the adjudications of Moses, teachings of Paul, and the visions of Ellen. Yeah, don't read too much into that. But yeah, that's the conversation started there. Let's have a look. Bread Math has said Jesus affirmed the Moses and Moses affirmed Jesus, and same with Paul. Great, agree with you. All next level stuff. I'm talking catch me as I fall. Catch me as I fall. What can I hang on to that the vast majority of us can gather around? And look, bread math, and Welly homeschool. I love homeschool, by the way. My youngest daughter is homeschooled with Montessori. It's fabulous. I might be wrong. Andy Mack writes, it took me 40 years to move out of the church. Bread Math is laughing about something. Right. He's saying he's just concerned. Don't be concerned, my friend. I'm very happy. I go to sleep at night. Very happy. SDA does major doctrinal damage, Jimmy James says. Bread Math says, I love your shows, Peter. Thank you, Bread Math. And Andy Mack writes, it's a miracle I'm still a believer, whatever a believer means. Thanks for sharing that, Andy Mack. Shows that you might be understanding what I'm saying. And again, I'm not suggesting at all that people take what I'm saying as being the fleshed out version of how they need to see life. I'm not saying that. Just reading here, and as I said, I'll have to head off soon. Back, in fact, I'm singing on the stage myself. So yes, I provide a lot of the PA and staff to 7 of the stages, data projectors, sound equipment. But they also let me perform every day as well. So I'm on today. In only half an hour. So I'd better go and tune up and get ready. Andy Mack writes, if you're going to be a follower of Christ, wouldn't the gospel be a great place to start? Exactly. And Breadmath writes, amen to landing on the 4 Gospels. I just finished going through them again this month. Maybe we are agreeing. And Trail Rider writes, a fantastic idea. I think I'll spend more time in the Gospels. Schley wrote, amen, Peter. This is exactly why Holy Orthodoxy has the 4 Gospels on the altar. They are the foundation. Motor Sapien writes, Peter, I completely agree about the picture of Jesus in the Gospels. The challenge I'd bring up is that nowhere in the 4 Gospels does Jesus present salvation in a forensic view, but always as healing. And that's, I find that exciting, more than a challenge, perhaps, because once you've spent a lot of time in that grounding of, whatever way we see it, the teachings of Jesus, removing all the other stuff, just the teachings, reading the Gospels over and over, then you get to go, well, what else can I look at? And that's why I have valued Connie, Mike Colburn, Frank Mirandino, Nancy and Mark. There's been so many great gospel presentations. I think we've got 11 of them. And I get challenged, and I know Motor Sapien, you do too. You often write really great comments and questions and challenging people's views. I love that, because we then get to go, well, if he was only really presenting it as a forensic view to do with healing, what does that mean? Let's explore the other stuff. But I'm suggesting explore that other stuff next. Dale Hutchings says, I must be a rebel because I've always kept my spiritual experience as simple. I've had to myself. I love it. And yeah, we'll just have to wrap it up. Some great thoughts there. Thank you, everybody. But I am going to be singing on stage very soon, so I'd better go and tune up. Fred Simmons says, we can have anger, we're just not to go to sleep angry. And Jesus said, be not angry without cause. Very well said. And I guess that's what I'm saying. I go to sleep happy. Honestly, I go to sleep happy every night. And I wouldn't say that's always been the way. It's been consistent for about 2 years. Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody, today. Next week, I believe we've got Bob Wolfgram coming on. He said to me, sometimes he doesn't view himself as an Adventist, but as an Ellenist. And I thought that is going to be a very interesting conversation. And there's another one coming up, but I've just can't remember what it is. And Connie, if you're still watching, maybe the gospel message next week. I'm not sure if I've asked someone else. I'll double check all of that and get back to everybody. See you all again very soon, and stay safe, and appreciate you all so much. Catch you next time, and back in the studio, not in this very uncomfortable van in a very boring looking car park. See you later.